Do you want to know how to get a kid to stop eating boogers? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're going to talk about boogers. So in this video, we're going to talk about why they eat the boogers. And then we're going to talk about what types of things we need to teach them so that we can correct this really bad social behavior. There was a friend of mine who had a child whose nose was always red and bloody. I realized that the reason why this child's nose was always red and bloody was because the child was always picking, trying to find every single thing in there that they could find, and they were hurting their own nose. The mother finally said to me one day, "Nicholeen, I have tried for years to get him to stop picking his nose, but he just keeps picking boogers and looking for boogers. What do I do?" So I talked to the mom about some of the self-government skills for success that she might need to help her child learn to curb that habit. The child had been doing it for years. It absolutely was a habit. There wasn't even always a booger in there. He was just picking in there all the time, touching in there, thinking that any bump he felt might be a booger. It was just a feeling that he had a craving for at that point, which meant that it was going to be even harder to solve the problem about that booger picking. But the skill that he needed was the same, whether it was a new booger picking habit or whether it was an old booger picking habit. So we're going to talk about that skill in some detail and how to do some correction. If you are new to this channel, you may want to subscribe, because as we talk about these skills, you'll probably want to start going to look for more information about them on the channel. When a person has a line that they should not cross over, that line is considered a no answer. If they cross over the line, they are not accepting a no answer. If they stay on their side of the line, then they did accept a no answer. This line could also be called a boundary. When a person picks their nose, they are not observing proper boundaries. It's a boundary issue. Just like spitting would be a boundary issue, just like hugging someone that does not want to be hugged would be a boundary issue. Getting in somebody else's space, those are all boundary issues. There are so many boundary issues, but booger picking is a boundary issue, as well as being a bad social skill. What you don't want to do is you don't want to shame your child for picking their nose. You don't want to talk about how gross they are and about how people will think they are gross and all of that kind of stuff. There's really no point to that. I mean, you might mention it one time that, hey, when you do that, some people may not want to touch your hand or other things that you've touched because they might feel like they're going to get your germs, because they would. You could phrase it like that, but don't say ew to your own child. That really isn't beneficial. So in the teaching self-government parenting method, there are 4 basic skills that take care of 99% of behavioral problems. These children's books each teach one of the 4 basic skills, which are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. All of these skills are required to learn self-government, but the one that's going to be the most beneficial for stopping a booger picking habit is this book right here, Porter Earns a Quarter. This is about a little boy named Porter, happens to be my son actually. Each one of these books were written about my children, and he doesn't know how to accept a no answer. So remember I said how any boundary line is a no answer? Well, he gets the opportunity to accept many no answers in this book, and he uses the same 4 steps of that skill for every one of those no answers, whether it's a boundary issue or whether it's an actual no from somebody else. What are the steps to accepting a no answer? They are to look at the person or the situation. The situation is, I want to pick my nose. So to recognize I've got a craving to pick my nose, right? That's the situation. Look at it, identify it. I have a craving. And then keep a calm face, voice, and body. That is Part number 2, then you say either okay to no, I'm not going to pick my nose. So you give yourself that no, and you say, okay, I'm not going to. Or you disagree appropriately. Well, disagreeing appropriately with yourself about nose picking is probably not going to happen. And then you drop the subject. So you say, I'm not going to think about my nose anymore. I'm not going to think about the feeling in there. I'm going to sit on my hands maybe. Okay? I'm going to make a plan for not picking my nose. So after you teach your children the 4 basic skills, then you can teach them that skill number 2, which is accepting a no answer or criticism, applies to boundary issues like nose picking, and that they need to be able to give themselves a no answer when that craving to pick the nose occurs. Now, if they choose to accept the no answer and drop the subject, then you praise them. Have them report to you that I thought about picking my nose, but I didn't. And then you can praise them for that. They might even have some positive consequences that they're working toward so that they are motivated to all the more report that they didn't pick their nose. Then, if they do choose to pick their nose, you see it happen, you do a simple correction. Now, there are multiple steps to doing a correction. These multiple steps are taught in a video called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. There are 5 teaching styles that parents use, and that one teaching style, effective correction, is really important. There's 7 steps to it. It's super important that you learn the steps to that skill so that you can correct your child in a super calm way. So I'm going to recommend that the next video that you go to is a video called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. You can click on the link to that video in the description so that you can find it very easily, and that way you'll be able to learn how to correct the problem when they cross over that boundary line and don't accept that no answer.